Have you ever found yourself worried about something that hasn't even happened yet? Or brooding over a past mistake, feeling that tightness in your chest as if you could go back in time and fix everything? If so, you are not alone. The modern world pushes us into a constant state of anxiety, making our minds get stuck between what has already passed and what is yet to come. But what if there were a way to train the mind to find peace in the present, without being dominated by useless worries? Imagine waking up in the morning and, instead of being immediately consumed by an avalanche of thoughts about bills to pay, work deadlines, and others' expectations, you could simply accept what is beyond your control and focus on what truly matters. This is the promise of Stoicism, a philosophy that has been practiced for over 2,000 years and still transforms the lives of people around the world today. The Stoics were not isolated monks or philosophers detached from reality. On the contrary, they were emperors, generals, politicians, and merchants who faced challenges as great as ours, perhaps even greater. Marcus Aurelius, one of the last great Roman emperors, governed an empire on the brink of collapse and yet found time to write reflections on how to maintain calm in the face of chaos. Seneca, one of the richest men in Rome, used the principles of Stoicism to deal with the pressure of Roman politics and the elite. And Epictetus, a former slave, proved that true freedom comes from the way we choose to react to what happens to us. Today, these lessons are more relevant than ever. We live in an era of information overload, constant demands, and endless comparisons on social media. It's no wonder that anxiety has become a silent epidemic. But the good news is that Stoicism offers us practical tools to regain control of our minds and reduce daily stress. In this video, you will learn 5 Stoic techniques to deal with anxiety and excessive worry. From changing the way you perceive challenges to simple daily habits that can transform your mental state. Each technique will be explained simply, with practical examples so you can apply them immediately. And stay tuned. The last technique is the most powerful of all, and it can completely change the way you face your worries. Now that you understand the importance of Stoicism and how it can help alleviate anxiety, let's go straight to the first technique, one of the most fundamental. The dichotomy of control. The dichotomy of control. If there is a single idea from Stoicism that can transform the way you deal with anxiety, it is this: learning to differentiate what is under your control from what is not. It may seem obvious at first glance, but a large part of our stress comes precisely from the difficulty of making this distinction. We spend hours worrying about others' reactions, about scenarios that might unfold in the future, or about opportunities that have already passed us by. But does it make sense to spend so much energy on things that, in the end, don't depend on us? The Stoics believed that this was the root of frustration. For Marcus Aurelius, this was an undeniable truth. You have power over your mind, not over external events. Realize this and you will find strength. But what, in fact, is under our control? Our actions, our choices, our mindset, our daily effort. We can decide how we react to a situation, how we interpret a problem, how we face a challenge. On the other hand, there are countless things that will never be in our hands. The opinion of others, external circumstances, the behavior of others, the past, and even part of our future. Now think of a situation from your daily life. You have an important job interview. You can prepare well, study about the company, review your answers, and take care of your presentation. But can you ensure that the recruiter is in a good mood? That he has slept well? I hope the spot is still available. When we focus on what we can control, anxiety loses its power. We do our best and accept whatever comes, without despair. It's a simple but powerful shift in perspective. Here is a practical exercise to incorporate this concept into your daily life. Whenever something is bothering you, ask yourself, is this under my control? If it's not, why am I wasting energy on it? If it is, what is the best action I can take now? By constantly repeating this process, you create a Stoic mindset. And, over time, you realize that most of the anxiety comes from trying to control the uncontrollable. Now that you have understood this first fundamental principle, let's move on to the second technique, a powerful mental practice that can completely change your relationship with the fear of the future. Negative visualization. Negative visualization. Imagine that you wake up and, before even getting out of bed, you receive an unexpected message. It could be a bill, a work problem, or bad news. Your day, which started off calm, is now filled with worry. You feel the weight of uncertainty and start imagining all the worst possible scenarios. Anxiety arises, largely, from the fear of the unknown. We worry about what might go wrong and try to avoid any kind of suffering. But what if, instead of running away from this fear, we faced it head-on? The Stoics had a practice called negative visualization. Unlike positive thinking, which seeks to eliminate worries, this technique invites us to deliberately imagine the worst possible scenarios. Not to generate fear, but to strengthen our resilience. Seneca said that we should anticipate in our minds all the adversities that may happen, so that when they come, we are already prepared for them. This exercise is not about being pessimistic, but about developing a strong enough mindset to handle any situation. Think of a challenge you are facing right now. Maybe it's an important presentation, a difficult conversation, or an uncertain project. Now ask yourself, what could possibly go wrong? If that happens, how can I deal with the situation? What is the real probability of this worst-case scenario happening? By doing this exercise, we realize that most of our fears are not as catastrophic as they seem. Often, the worst-case scenario is not even as severe as we imagine, and even if it happens, there are ways to deal with it. Let's apply this to a practical example. Imagine that you are about to ask for a raise at work. The mere idea of talking to your boss already makes you nervous. What could happen that's worse? Maybe he'll say no. Maybe he thinks your request doesn't make sense. Maybe he might even get annoyed. Now, what can you do if that happens? If he says no, you can ask what needs to improve to get a raise in the future. If he thinks the request doesn't make sense, you can look for other opportunities that value your work more. And if he gets upset, maybe that says more about him than about you. This practice teaches something valuable. We can endure much more than we imagine. When we train our minds to consider challenges rationally, fear loses its power and we become more confident in the face of life. Moreover, negative visualization helps us appreciate what we already have. When we imagine losing something, whether it's our job, our health, or even a loved one, we learn to pay more attention to the present. What was once taken for granted becomes truly appreciated. This is one of the great secrets of Stoic happiness. Accepting that everything is fleeting and, precisely because of that, enjoying each moment more intensely. Now that you understand how this technique can reduce anxiety and strengthen your resilience, let's move on to the next strategy. The practice of detachment, an exercise that teaches us to live lightly and with less attachment to what we cannot control. The practice of detachment. We live in a world where attachment governs a large part of our emotions. We cling to material possessions, to positions, to relationships, and even to the image we have built of ourselves. The problem is that when something threatens these possessions, or when we lose them, we suffer deeply. The Stoics saw this in a different way. For them, true freedom was only possible when we learned not to depend excessively on anything external. This does not mean that we should not appreciate the good things in life, but rather that we should be prepared to move on if they are taken from us. Epictetus, one of the greatest Stoic philosophers, said, "Never say about something, 'I lost it,' but rather, 'I returned it.' If a friend leaves, you haven't lost them, you've just returned them. If a material possession leaves, it has merely completed its cycle." When we view life this way, we avoid unnecessary suffering and find a peace that does not depend on external circumstances. But how to practice this detachment in real life? Practice Stoic indifference. The Stoics divided the events of life into two groups, those we can control and those we cannot. From this, the idea of Stoic indifference emerges. This does not mean being cold or apathetic, but rather developing the ability to accept changes without despair. Think of an object that you really like, a cell phone, a watch, a car. Now imagine that it breaks or gets stolen. Of course, that would cause discomfort, but should your well-being depend on it? Marcus Aurelius practiced this mindset daily, reminding himself that everything he possessed was temporary. Thus, if one day he lost something, he would not suffer more than necessary. Value without getting attached. Stoicism does not preach that we should live without anything or reject the pleasures of life. On the contrary, it teaches us to enjoy the present without becoming its slaves. For example, you can deeply love someone, but without your happiness entirely depending on that person. You can enjoy material possessions, but without your identity being tied to them. In this way, you free yourself from the constant anxiety of losing what you have. Practice temporary resignation. One of the most effective ways to practice detachment is to do it intentionally. Seneca recommended that, from time to time, we live simply, even if we have abundance. You can try this in various ways. Spend a few days without using social media to realize that your happiness does not depend on them. Eating in a simpler and more modest way, even if you can afford something better. Sleep for a few days in a more uncomfortable place to realize you can live with less. These small practices teach us that, in the end, we need much less than we imagine to be happy. And when we accept this truth, we become lighter and less worried about the possibility of losing what we have. Detachment is one of the most direct paths to inner peace. When we learn to appreciate without clinging, life becomes less turbulent and anxiety loses its grip. Now that we understand this essential practice, we move on to the next Stoic technique, memento mori, an exercise that reminds us of the importance of living each day with awareness and purpose. Memento mori, the Stoic secret to living fully. If today were our last day, how would we live? Would we waste time stressing over minor annoyances? Would we let trivial problems consume us? Or would we embrace each moment with greater presence and meaning? For the Stoics, constantly remembering death wasn't dark or depressing. It was an invitation to live more fully. This idea is known as memento mori, which literally means, remember that you will die. Marcus Aurelius often reflected on this in his meditations, reminding himself that any day could be his last. For him, this wasn't a source of fear but a way to eliminate distractions, cultivate gratitude, and act with purpose. But how can this mindset help us deal with anxiety and stress? Put your worries in perspective. A lot of our anxiety comes from giving too much weight to temporary problems. We obsess over an unanswered message, a harsh comment at work, or a small mistake we made. But in the grand scheme of life, do these things really matter? When we remember how fleeting life is, we realize that many of the things that keep us up at night are insignificant. What truly matters is how we live, how we treat others, and the impact we leave behind. Live with presence and intention. How often do we go through an entire day without really being present? We may be physically in one place, but our mind is trapped in the past or anxiously projecting into the future. Memento mori reminds us to cherish every moment, knowing it may never come again. When we internalize this, every meal, every conversation, and every sunset takes on a deeper meaning. Try asking yourself throughout the day, if today were my last day, would I be satisfied with how I'm living? Do my current worries really matter? Am I fully experiencing this moment, or just letting it pass by? Stop putting life on hold. How often do we delay the things that truly matter? We say we'll travel when we have time, spend more time with family when things calm down, or chase our dreams when the moment is right. But the right moment may never come. Tomorrow is not guaranteed. The Stoics understood this, which is why they believed in taking action now. If something is important, it should not be postponed. This doesn't mean acting impulsively. It means living with conscious urgency. Don't wait to express love, to pursue what truly matters, or to make the changes you need. Turn fear of death into motivation to live. Many people avoid thinking about death because it makes them uncomfortable. But for the Stoics, this reflection wasn't a source of despair. It was a wake-up call to live without regrets. Seneca wrote, "Hurry to live well, and consider that each day, by itself, is a life." When we accept death as a natural part of life, we can use it as a catalyst to live with more courage and authenticity. It helps us let go of grudges, forgive faster, and focus on what truly matters. A practical memento mori exercise. To embrace this mindset, try this simple exercise. Imagine you have only 1 week to live. How would you spend your time? What would change in your daily routine? Now shorten it to just 1 day. What would become your top priorities? Finally, ask yourself, why not start living this way now? The goal isn't to create fear, it's to inspire urgency in living with meaning. By embracing memento mori, our anxiety about the future fades because we understand that each day is already a complete opportunity in itself. Now that we've internalized this powerful perspective, let's move on to the next Stoic principle. The role of reason, a fundamental key to mastering our emotions and cultivating a balanced mind. The power of reason. Have you ever been overwhelmed by intense emotions, anger, frustration, anxiety, only to realize later that those feelings clouded your judgment? In the heat of the moment, it's easy to lose control, letting emotions dictate our actions instead of thinking things through. This is one of the greatest challenges of modern life, learning to master our minds and emotions instead of being controlled by them. The Stoics believe that reason, the ability to think logically and reflect deeply, is the key to living a balanced and fulfilling life. To them, reason was the one thing truly within our control, a tool that allows us to find clarity amidst the chaos of everyday life. The rational mind versus emotional impulses. Seneca once wrote, "Life is not short, but we waste much of it." And he had a point. Most of us spend too much time reacting to our emotions instead of responding with reason. When we let fear, anger, or anxiety take over, our ability to make sound decisions diminishes. But reason isn't just about deep thinking. It's a way to free ourselves from emotional slavery. The Stoics didn't deny that emotions are natural. They simply believed that emotions should be guided by reason. In other words, while we can't stop emotions from arising, we always have control over how we respond to them. The art of mental distancing. One powerful way to apply reason in emotional moments is through mental distancing. When you feel overwhelmed, take a step back and ask yourself, what's really happening here? Why am I reacting this way? This small shift in perspective allows you to see the situation more clearly. Instead of being consumed by emotion, you become a rational observer, analyzing the factors driving your reaction. This simple practice helps keep your mind calm and focused. The power of logical thinking. Instead of letting emotions hijack your mind, use logical thinking to break down the situation. What's actually at stake here? Is this as big of a problem as I'm making it out to be? What are my options, and which one makes the most sense? By applying logic, you reduce the intensity of your emotions. Problems become more manageable because you're seeing them through a rational lens rather than through fear or frustration. And most importantly, this keeps you focused on solutions instead of spiraling into endless what-ifs. Think before you act. Reason isn't just useful in moments of crisis, it should guide our daily lives. Every choice we make, whether at work or in our personal lives, has consequences. Acting on impulse often leads to regret. How many times have you said something in anger or made a rushed decision, only to wish you had paused for a moment first? The Stoics practiced something called premeditation, thinking through the consequences of their actions before taking them. Imagine you're about to respond to a rude comment from a coworker. Instead of reacting with frustration, stop and ask yourself, if I respond in anger, what will this lead to? Is this argument really worth my time and energy? Or if you're about to make a big financial decision, do I actually need this, or am I acting on impulse? How will this choice impact my future? This habit of pausing and reflecting helps prevent unnecessary stress, regret, and frustration. Using reason to build resilience. Reason is also a powerful tool for resilience. Life will throw challenges at you. Job losses, failures, unexpected obstacles. But how you respond makes all the difference. Instead of letting emotions dictate your reaction, use reason to evaluate the situation. Imagine you just lost your job. It's a tough situation, no doubt. But rather than panicking or feeling defeated, ask yourself, what can I learn from this? What are my next steps? How can I turn this setback into an opportunity? By approaching difficulties with a rational mindset, you don't just survive tough times. You come out stronger and more prepared for the future. Making reason a daily habit. To truly master reason, you need to practice it daily. This can be through meditation, journaling, or simply taking a few moments each day to reflect. Ask yourself, did I act rationally today? Were my decisions guided by logic or impulse? This self-awareness allows you to gradually reshape your habits, ensuring that reason, not fleeting emotions, guides your life. Now that you understand the role of reason in Stoic philosophy, let's dive into the final and most powerful practice, the pursuit of virtue, the foundation upon which all Stoic wisdom is built. The practice of virtue. Stoicism is a deeply ethical philosophy, and one of its core principles is the practice of virtue. For the Stoics, virtue is the only true good, while everything else, wealth, status, pleasure, is considered indifferent. True happiness doesn't depend on what we own or achieve, but on how we act and who we choose to become. The Stoic philosophers believed that living a virtuous life meant living in accordance with human nature. That is, being rational, just, courageous, disciplined, and wise. However, they also believed that virtue isn't something we're simply born with. It must be actively cultivated through practice. To the Stoics, self-mastery and the continuous effort to live virtuously are the highest goals we can pursue. What does virtue mean in Stoicism? The Stoics defined virtue as a set of essential moral qualities that involve living according to reason and in harmony with nature. These virtues include wisdom, the ability to distinguish between what is truly good and bad and to make sound decisions; justice, treating others fairly, respecting their rights, and acting with integrity; courage, facing fear and adversity with resilience and composure; temperance, exercising self-control, avoiding excess, and seeking balance in all areas of life. According to the Stoics, practicing these virtues is the key to achieving true happiness and well-being, regardless of external circumstances. When we live by these principles, we attain eudaimonia, or human flourishing, which is the ultimate goal of life. Virtue as a daily practice. Virtue isn't something we achieve once and for all. It's a lifelong practice. Living virtuously means applying these principles in our daily lives, in every action and interaction. For example, in a workplace conflict, the virtue of justice reminds us to treat everyone fairly and seek solutions that benefit all parties. Wisdom helps us analyze the situation and choose the best course of action. Temperance allows us to stay calm and avoid reacting emotionally, while courage empowers us to make tough decisions, even when we're afraid of the consequences. Virtue isn't about perfection. It's about making the best possible choice in every moment. Small, consistent efforts to act virtuously shape our character over time and transform the way we think and behave. Virtue and inner control. One of the most powerful lessons of Stoicism is that true happiness comes from controlling our own actions, emotions, and thoughts. We can't control external events, but we can always control how we respond to them. Practicing virtue is an exercise in inner control. By choosing to live rationally and act virtuously, we maintain inner peace, no matter what happens around us. For instance, if we face adversity, such as an unfair critique at work or a personal loss, we don't have to react impulsively. Instead, we can practice temperance, managing our emotions and avoiding rash responses. Wisdom helps us see the situation objectively and make rational choices, while courage enables us to face challenges with dignity. The power of moral reflection. Virtue also requires self-awareness and moral reflection. To live virtuously, we must regularly examine our actions and intentions. A simple way to do this is through daily journaling or meditation. At the end of the day, take a moment to reflect on your choices and ask yourself, did I act wisely in all situations? Was I fair in my decisions and interactions? Did I control my impulses and emotions? Did I face challenges with courage? These questions help us stay accountable and ensure we're on the right path. Virtue as a cure for anxiety. Now that we understand the role of virtue, we can see how it helps combat anxiety. Stoic virtues, especially self-mastery and rational thinking, allow us to face life's difficulties with a calm mind. Instead of being consumed by fear or worrying about the future, wisdom teaches us to focus on what we can control, our actions and responses. Temperance prevents us from overreacting emotionally, while courage gives us the strength to face uncertainty, knowing that no matter what happens, we always have the power to respond rationally and effectively. Practicing virtue in times of crisis. Virtue isn't tested in times of comfort, it's revealed in moments of crisis. When faced with difficulties, our virtues have the opportunity to shine. During stressful or challenging times, we can use reason to guide us, justice to act with integrity, courage to face our fears, and temperance to remain composed. For example, if you're experiencing extreme pressure at work or in your personal life, Stoic principles can help you maintain clarity and resilience. Living virtuously allows you to navigate these moments with greater peace of mind, knowing that, in the end, What truly matters is who you are and how you choose to respond to challenges. Now that you've grasped the foundation of Stoicism, let's move on to the next chapter, where we'll explore practical techniques to apply these principles in daily life and effectively manage stress. Applying Stoicism to everyday life. Now that we understand Stoic philosophy, it's time to see how we can apply it practically in our daily lives. Stoicism isn't just a set of ideas, it's a way of living. Let's explore how to integrate its principles into our routine. Start your day with Stoic reflection. Right after waking up, take a few minutes to reflect on the day ahead. Think about the challenges you might face and mentally prepare yourself to handle them calmly. This practice helps you start your day with a focused and peaceful mindset, using Stoic wisdom as your guide. For example, remind yourself that while you can't control everything, you can control how you respond to situations. The practice of memento mori. Memento mori is a reminder of our mortality. It might sound unsettling at first, but in reality, it helps us value our time more. When we remember that life is short, we are motivated to make the most of each moment and focus on what truly matters, rather than wasting time on unnecessary worries. Reevaluating everyday concerns. When worries arise, ask yourself, can I do something about this right now? If the answer is no, then there's no reason to stress over it. This technique helps reduce anxiety because it trains you to focus only on what's within your control. Don't waste time on things beyond your reach. Practicing Stoic gratitude. Gratitude in Stoicism goes beyond simply appreciating what we have. It teaches us to value everything around us, even during difficult times. Make a habit of focusing on the good things in your life, like your health, personal growth, and relationships. This shift in mindset reduces frustration and increases inner peace. Turning challenges into opportunities. When you face difficulties, ask yourself, what can I learn from this? Instead of seeing problems as obstacles, view them as opportunities for growth. Stoicism teaches us to find virtue in adversity, which lowers stress and helps us handle challenges with a more positive outlook. The art of living in the present. Anxiety often stems from focusing too much on the future or dwelling on the past. Stoicism encourages us to live in the present and concentrate on what we can control right now. By doing so, we become more effective in our actions and avoid being overwhelmed by worries about the unknown or regrets about what has already happened. Making Stoicism a part of your routine. To apply Stoicism effectively, consistency is key. Start with small daily practices, such as morning reflection, managing worries, and practicing gratitude. Over time, these habits will become second nature, and you'll begin to notice a significant shift in the way you live. Change doesn't happen overnight, but by making these principles a daily habit, you'll gradually experience a powerful transformation from within. Now that we understand how to incorporate Stoicism into our daily lives, let's explore its long-term impact. The long-term impact of Stoicism. Applying Stoic principles consistently can lead to profound changes over time. Let's take a look at how this philosophy can reshape your life in the long run. Greater emotional control. With time, Stoicism helps you manage your emotions more effectively. Instead of reacting impulsively, you learn to process feelings with a calm and rational mindset. This balance becomes incredibly valuable in moments of stress or conflict. Better decision-making. As you practice Stoicism, you start making more thoughtful and rational decisions. The philosophy teaches you to focus on what you can control and avoid acting on impulse, leading to wiser and more balanced choices. Increased resilience. Stoicism trains you to face challenges with strength and resilience. By viewing difficulties as opportunities for growth, you develop the ability to handle obstacles in life with a positive attitude. Stronger relationships. Applying Stoic principles, such as self-control and empathy, can greatly improve your relationships. You become better at communication and more composed in interactions, leading to deeper and healthier connections with others. Reduced anxiety and stress. By focusing on the present and letting go of unnecessary worries, Stoicism helps lower anxiety and stress levels. This brings a greater sense of peace and clarity to your everyday life. A stronger sense of purpose. Stoicism encourages you to live according to your values and principles, giving your life a deeper sense of purpose. Instead of seeking happiness in external circumstances, you find fulfillment within yourself. Improved physical well-being. Lower stress and anxiety levels can also lead to better physical health. Over time, emotional control can contribute to improved blood pressure, a stronger immune system, and overall better well-being. Consistent and lasting habits. As you integrate Stoicism into your daily routine, it becomes second nature. The principles gradually shape your actions, creating a solid foundation for personal growth and lifelong self-improvement. Embracing Stoicism isn't about instant transformation. It's about continuous learning and practice. By consistently applying these principles with patience, you'll notice a lasting change in how you think and act. Stoicism not only brings immediate benefits but also reshapes your outlook on life, allowing you to live with greater balance and inner peace in the long run. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit the like button. It really helps me out. And if you haven't subscribed yet, make sure to do so now so you don't miss out on future content. Oh, and don't go anywhere just yet. There's an amazing video popping up on your screen right now that I know you'll love. Click on it, and let's keep watching.